Hello, this is Dr. Mike again. This is day 3, which is Wednesday of our final week, week 3. And we're going over some very important things, I think, in the understanding of the business world and ethics and things that you need to consider in the workplace as a part of your communication strategy. Everyone should have a plan and a mindset at which you think about, understand that many times you're the front line of the company and you're the first person that people see, and their first impressions are lasting impressions. The old saying is that you never get a second chance to make a good first impression. And so the things that I'm trying to guide you toward are professional standards that you should employ every day and use them for your advantage to make yourself invaluable in the workplace. It leads to job security and many other aspects of good employment, good raises, promotions, all those things come from being a very professional employee. Don't take your home life to work and don't interfere, don't intermix those two. Try to keep your business and professional life as separate as you can. And of course, it goes without saying that you're very careful not to take phone calls and emails and all these stuff that from outside, from friends. I've had people that worked for me before that insisted on being on the cell phone the entire time that they work. That's the easiest way I know to get an exit out the door because you are being paid to conduct your job, not to talk to your friends, not to text your friends. Just politely say, I'm at work. I will talk to you after my work hours. And before long, they learn not to text you during work hours. We're going to pursue a little bit more of that today when we talk about the chapter 11, which is quite interesting because it talks about professionalism and at work, about business etiquette, about ethics, about teamwork, about meetings. All these things will certainly be things that you will deal with in your professional career. So we want to understand what it means to be professional. And I say that because I don't think many people understand work today as they have done in the past. Today, people act like it's optional, that you don't have to have a job, that you don't have to be promoted, that just naturally comes. It does not just come. It is entirely dependent upon our behavior and how we act. So we need to start developing etiquette skills now, even while you're in school, and build an ethical mindset, which is important qualities that in this digital age that employers are going to be seeking, and that's going to be a big part of your interview for a job. So what is professionalism? We hear that word kicked around quite a bit. It is, first of all, civility. It's how you work in the marketplace. You are kind and gentle. You're not picking a fight. You're not trying to be disruptive, demanding, all those things, but just have, be careful when you speak and do it politely and correctly. Business and dining etiquette have a lot to do with that. So what does dining have to do with my job? Well, if you are invited to lunch by a contractor or by a customer, they look at how you behave yourself at the table. If you have dining, if you have etiquette, know how to use a fork, all those things, everything goes into your business life and it will make or break you. You should work on a polished image, which is another thing about professionalism. That means how you dress, how you keep your hair. If you're a man, how you keep your beard. People do not like dealing with dirty, nasty people. I watch TV quite a bit and see these ladies and men that do interviews on shows, or they're on a game show, or they're somewhere. And I said, well, they haven't even washed their hair. They haven't combed their hair. They haven't shaved. They haven't done anything. I mean, I know some of that is much more accepted today than it was in my generation, but my goodness, the least person could do is wash their hair. If you want to make a good polished image, wear business casual clothing. You don't wear blue jeans to work. You don't wear, God forbid you wear blue jeans with holes in them to work. And I know, again, that's socially more acceptable today than it was in my generation. In my generation, if you had holes in your jeans, it meant you were dirt poor. Now it's a status symbol, but be careful what you wear, how you act. Ladies, you wear hose, you dress up. If you're in that kind of a job, you need to, your uniform needs to be clean. I used to work for a restaurant in which my boss would make you appear before him before you went out on the floor to serve tables, because he said people tend to wear their uniform home, take it off, throw it down on the floor, let the dog sleep on it, and then just put it back on and come back to work with dog and cat hair everywhere, and he'd walk you to the door. You got one chance to that was your only chance to do right. Social intelligence, you need to be very careful about how you treat people. Don't judge people based on appearance. Don't judge people based on their religion, their ethnicity, their sexual orientation. Use a little social intelligence, because let me tell you something, you can start a fire over any number of things and lose a job. And the question is it worth it at day's end to lose a job, try to find another one over something that in 100 years won't amount to anything? And then your soft skills. Those are things that you just normally do as a part of work, which is your word processing, typing, documents, all those other things that we have talked about already. So there are 6 dimensions of professional behavior. One is your appearance and your appeal. One is your tolerance and your tact, what you're willing to take, put up with. And body language has a lot to do with it. You don't have to open your mouth to show a bad attitude or a resistance or something. Body language and tone of voice, all those things come in under that heading. Honesty and ethics are huge today because we find so many people that don't have either. Reliability, diligence. Are you on time? That does not mean 10 minutes after 8. That is not on time. 5 minutes till 8 is on time. When I worked for BMW building cars, if the line was down because you were a minute late, it was $10,000 a minute. So time is money to your employer. It may not be to you. You might be on salary, but let me tell you, if you clock in late often enough, you'll be clocking in at the unemployment office. So you need to change your habits. You say, well, I'm not a morning person. Well, either become one or take a second shift job or a third shift job, but modify your habits to match the demands of the job. They are under no obligation to modify the job to match your habits. And that's just good. It's just good understanding. Have students in class can't do a 10 o'clock class in the morning because they're not a morning person. Then they probably shouldn't be in school. Collegiality, sharing. That's how you work with your coworkers. Courtesy and respect. That also applies to everybody from your boss to your coworkers to your customers. I can't tell you, after working for 63 years, most of my 63 years, how professionalism, how important it is to lead to success. Good manners and a business-like professional demeanor are among the top soft skills that employers seek in job candidates. They will not hire you. That look on your face says you're angry at the world, you're mad at the world, you don't communicate. I went through a drive-through yesterday. The young lady had a real attitude problem, didn't speak, didn't smile, took my money, slammed my receipt in my hand. And I thought, lady, if you work for me, you'd be gone. Projecting and maintaining a professional image makes a real difference in helping you obtain or keep the job of your dreams. If you want to get somewhere, you're going to have to change. They're not going to change for you, and they're not going to make allowances for you very long. Even in a COVID world, when things have drastically shifted, most employers or most business owners are just not going to put up with it. Some of them will close before they do it. And so don't expect that to be a reality. So speech habits, let's talk about speaking. It's unprofessional to uptalk, trying to sound, more educated than you are or whatever, using big words, thinking that makes you an educated person. Talk at a level, 10th grade, 12th grade level of understanding. You don't have to be, I come from a place where, we had to pipe sunlight in, every day because I live so far back in the sticks. I was born a redneck. I did not want to remain one. I worked 63 years to get over that. And I do my best not to speak like one. Now, as I get more tired during the day, maybe I slip a little bit, but there's a lot of things that, misuse of words. What I really love is when people misuse words thinking they're being highly smart and educated, and you just want to say, no, 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 no. You need to you're here to get an education. And as I say so often, what worries me is that you might get a diploma and not get the education. And then when you get out there, you're dealing with somebody else's life, especially those in nursing and personal care like that. What you don't learn may mean somebody dies. So you need to pay attention to what's going on. Slang and profanity, there is no place for that in the workforce, and poor grammar. There's really no place for that either. Learn grammar. Don't make excuses. Well, I didn't have a very good high school teacher, didn't have a very good elementary teacher. Sure, that may be true. All of us can look back at teachers that weren't the best in the world, but that is a crutch. You can learn grammar, get you a grammar book and learn it for yourself. Take a class, do something. There's no excuse for poor grammar. And your credibility can be seriously damaged by sounding uneducated, by sounding crude, by sounding like an adolescent when you're supposed to be critically thinking about what you're doing. And take that to heart, because that is a very real problem in the workplace. By the same token, your email projecting professionalism with people who probably never will see you. Don't use incomplete sentences. Don't use run-ons. Don't use misspelled words. Don't use exclamation points. There are two parts of punctuation that most people really overuse, and that's exclamation points and semicolons. If you don't know how to use them, just don't use them. And do not do all caps. That is, the etiquette for that says that you are shouting at someone. Don't do instant message slang or text speak. Don't use mindless chatter. Don't use sloppy messages. All of those are very, very unprofessional. If you have a problem with grammar, get Grammarly.com. It is free. It goes on your computer. It shows you when words and phrases are wrong. Correct them. Professional. Employers like to see subjects and verbs and punctuation. They don't like seeing instant message abbreviations. They want you to be concise. They want you to spell correctly. Even in a brief email message, there is no place for a misspelled word in your work as a college student or your work as a professional. So basically, in the email addresses, don't ever set up an email message that you're going to use professionally with some stupid moniker like Doodle King, Hot Mama, Lover Boy. That is not professional, and yet I get them all the time. Professional addresses ought to include a name or a positive business-like expression. They should not sound cute or include nicknames and things like that. Voicemails. Make sure that you have an outgoing message. It's unprofessional to use a bunch of distracting background music. I've heard people use hard rock and rap and all kinds of things, weird sounds. Don't make it a joke. Don't be smart. Kindly have a professional business message. Also have one that you put on when you are out of town or you're not in the office for the day, so that people don't expect callbacks from you when they don't know where you are. That's very unprofessional. As a professional, an outgoing message that states your name provides instructions for leaving a message and some kind of time frame of when you're going to get back to them. Just be sure that you keep your word and do that. On the telephone, you should have a certain professional preference, a presence. You don't have blaring TV shows, thunderous music, sports events playing in the background when you answer the phone. That is not cool. As a teacher, I get really tired trying to overtalk the TV or overtalk your husband or wife who's trying to interject into the conversation. That is not professional, and you need to pay attention to those things. Quiet background when you answer the phone, especially if you're expecting a prospective employer's call. If you are doing an interview, God help us in a day of Zoom when we're doing interviews and we have the cat climbing the curtain behind you, or you come to the interview with your hair curlers in and your fuzzy slippers on, or your husband comes out of the bathroom without his clothes. Those things do not provide for a professional interview and will probably cost you a job. So we need to be sure that we clean up our act before we do those things. Projecting professionalism on cell phones and tablets, use electronics during business meeting for non-business purposes is unprofessional, or during conversations with fellow employees raising your voice or forcing others to overhear your calls, or taking a call in a business meeting. That is not done. Please notify people that you have, that you're in a meeting or whatever. Turn your phone off. Turn your phone off in church. I've spent many a time trying to preach about someone's cell phone going off. That is very unprofessional. Turn off phone and message notifications, both audible and vibrate. I've had people that lay their phone on the table where they're having a meeting and the vibration is as loud as a telephone ring. Cut the phone off. Use your smart devices only for business-related purposes. When someone hires you from 8 to 5, they expect your undivided attention from 8 to 5. They expect you to work from 8 to 5. They don't expect you to spend that on personal business, personal conversations, keeping up with your buddies. That is not what you're paid for, and you will end up losing a job over it if you're not careful. Texting. Unprofessional, sending and receiving text during meetings on non-business purposes, texting during face-to-face conversations, and God help, texting during a job interview, or just texting needlessly. You realize that we are addicted to our cell phones and we're addicted to technology, but we have to break the addiction during the work hours. Professionals send business text messages only when necessary. Be careful what you say in a text message. Those are collected and kept, especially if you are on your company phone. They are the property of your company, as is your company cell phone, your company computer. Everything that you use those for is open for inspection and can be a job altering situation. So let's talk about etiquette for a minute. That is expected, right? You use polite words. You don't put people down. You express sincere appreciation and praise. You be selective in sharing your personal information, and you do respect your coworkers' space. Had a pastor one time who was having a church problem, and with a member, and one of the guys in the church worked for the cell phone company that they all had their cell phone with, and he went into the records and pulled the conversations and the text that that member had with different people in the church and used it against him. And that guy that worked for the cell phone company not only lost his job, but he got arrested. So you have to be very, very careful about this. Rise above rudeness. Don't return an answer for an answer. Somebody gives you, grief, don't give them grief back. Be a better person, be a more forgiving person. Be considerate when you're sharing space, when you're sharing equipment. Choose the high road in a disagreement, and agree to disagree agreeably and move on to something else. These are all just good points of advice. Your voice is one of your best communication tools. You master face-to-face workplace interaction. You work on body language. You work on how you sit even in how you sit in a chair in front of your boss's desk has a lot to do with your success or failure. You should sit there and lean in like you're interested in what's going on. Don't yawn while he's talking, and don't play on your phone, and don't do all these other things. Give complete attention and foster positive relationships on the job, and accept as well. Provide constructive criticism. Do it gracefully. And when you get an email, respond to the email. Don't just ignore it, blow it off, because it's important. I have that happen all the time with students. But it's just as important with your teacher as it is with your voice. So improve your pronunciation. Work on that. Work on your voice quality. Work on your pitch. Adjust your volume and rate. Use emphasis to express meaning. Work on how you speak. Stand in front of the mirror to do that, because it's very helpful to do that, because you can you can improve your work. I mean, improving your pronunciation. It's etc., not etc. Going to, not gonna. Library, not library. And supposedly, not supposedly. So work on what you're saying. Voice quality, do you sound enthusiastic or do you sound like you're bored to tears? Sound friendly, sound alert, sound happy, sound positive, or do you sound controlling, frustrated, angry, slow-witted, bored, negative? All those things have an effect, and they come across on your phone very clearly. If you've ever been in line for 20 minutes to talk to a online person and them come on like they're bored to tears, it's really, really aggravating. Avoid a flat monotone voice and try to vary your pitch a little bit. It really helps. Speak loudly, not softly. Sometimes it pays to speak softly to get somebody's attention. Don't make your listeners strain too much to hear you. Don't speak too rapidly or too slowly. One of the things about pitch and voice is there's this tendency when you see someone that you immediately recognize as maybe not speaking, you assume because they have a skin color or they look a different way, they don't speak English, and then you speak down to them and very slowly. That is equally offensive. Find out, first of all, if they understand English. When you speak to them, you'll know. If they'll tell you if they need to ask questions. So those things are very offensive in the workplace, that you just assume that someone is a certain way because you see signs that they are. So working in the marketplace, conversation does matter. Always use correct names and titles. It's very important to address someone by name. When you do a resume or you do a cover letter to go with your resume, find out who's doing the interview, address the cover letter to the person by name. Avoid negative remarks, either on paper or in person, because negative words, you can't pick them up again once you've spilled them. And once you've hurt someone, you will never unhurt them. You can apologize the rest of your life. They'll never forget that as long as they live. I chose appropriate topics. Listen to learn. Act professionally in social situations. Give sincere and specific praise. One of the things that's so funny about, I teach Native American history. One of the people that talk to Native Americans want to make them understand they're part Native American, or they have a friend that's a Native American, or, that's a very racist comment, way to work. We do that with African Americans, Chinese Americans, Asian Americans, whatever. We want them to know that we're trying to be really, really professional. That's the worst thing you can do. Treat people like people, and don't put them in little pigeonholes that you have to, some way, condense to something you understand. Listen without interrupting. And while you're listening to someone speak, don't be thinking about what you're going to say back. Listen to what they're saying first. What's the speaker's intent? Paraphrase what was said. Acknowledge what you're hearing. I understand that you have a concern about such and such. So you repeat that back to them. Sometimes you have to ask for more information. If the agreements are accurate, agree with them, learn from criticism, look for a middle ground. And sometimes you just have to disagree respectfully and constructively. If you feel like the comments are unfair, then, you agree to disagree and you move on, but you don't leave a bad impression. Providing constructive criticism on the job is an issue that you have to learn. I don't think it's anything. It's easy, but mentally think through your conversation. When possible, try to communicate face to face. Don't send an email. Words on paper and on email are cold and heartless. And if you aren't careful, they will do more damage than good. Try to do face to face. Focus on improvement. Avoid broad generalizations. Don't broad base, certain things. Be specific. Offer to help. Try to help a person improve. So you want to discuss the behavior, not the person. I know that you wouldn't do this to hurt someone else, but it's happened. So how do we deal with that? Use the word we rather than you. Keep it private. Encourage two-way communication. Don't just unload on somebody, rant and rave and fuss, but avoid anger, avoid sarcasm, avoid a raised voice. That can be very difficult to do sometimes. If you're angry, do not engage while you're angry. Maybe you wait till the next morning when you've cooled off and things look a bit differently. So in phone skills, you polish your voicemail etiquette, as we've said. You work on introduction. You call the person by name, identify yourself, give a brief reason for calling. And if you're rushed, be quick, be cheerful, be accurate, all those things, be professional and courteous. Because remember, they can't see your body language and they can't see your inflection, and they don't know if you care or not. So, as you receive, do the same things. You receive a phone call, be courteous. Don't be angry. Don't assume that you know who's on the other line as well. So basically, as you read through these, you will pick up the same pointers over and over by voicemail, by whatever. When you leave a voicemail, be sure that you are saying what you want to say, you're not angry, and that you come across in the way you want to be understood. Well, another issue today, of course, is teamwork in this workplace that we live in. You form teams for a lot of different reasons, and that is that you get better decisions because people actually doing the job know the problems. They're able to, to respond and give you great ideas. Faster response because these are the people doing the work. Increased productivity, hopefully, a greater buy-in, less resistance to change, hopefully improved employee morale, reduce risk. All those things are why we form teams. There are 4 phases in teamwork: forming, storming, norming, and performing. When you first start forming a team, you select members, they become acquainted, they build trust, they form some kind of collaborative culture. And usually they will go through this storming phase when they identify problems, collect and share information, establish decision criteria, prioritize their goals, and then it gets down to the normal processes, and finally it gets put in place. So give that some thought as you read through your text. Work is what you do rather than a place you go. I think that's a good idea. You're there to do certain things. You're there to collaborate with your workers. You're not a one-man show. I've seen so many people in the years that made the life of everybody difficult because they were not a team player and they wanted to be different. You'll get fired quicker than anything. If you don't fit the mold, they will find some place for you to go look for another job. So be sure that there's a lot of positive behavior and there's a lot of negative behaviors. And so in type of teams, don't waste the group's time. Don't make jokes and comments. Don't fail, stay on task. And then, if you don't participate, then find somewhere else to work. So these are how you define a successful team. They're small. They embrace diversity. It's very difficult in some places where there's a large male environment because they may have one female on a team and the men kind of react to that. That's not good. And it shouldn't be the environment that you work in. Agree on your purpose and procedures. Confront conflict. The quicker you confront and deal with conflict, the better off you are as a team. Some teams absolutely collapse over the failure to confront problems. Communicate, collaborate, accept ethical responsibilities, and share the leadership, share the wins and the losses. But when you have a step back and something didn't go well, then you need to share the blame as well, because it's about the team. It's not about, there is no I in team. I guess I've heard that like 50 million times in teams that I've been on. There's no I. There's no place for you. I, me, my, I won't, I will. Don't even use the words. Today we do a lot of virtual meetings, and that they should be simple and effective. They should enhance, what you're doing, and then you ought to be careful about your backgrounds, as I've said, and what's going on in the background. But you should stay engaged in the process of what you're trying to do. I hope this has been helpful. These are some very, very practical things. They come across maybe a little crude, but I'm telling you that I've done this for years in business places. Every one of these things I've talked to you about has happened to me, and they happen over and over. So you need to take to heart how it is that you are a professional and effective worker if you want to do well in the world of work. It changes every day. It changes every week. It changes every month. Work is not the same as it was when I started as an 18 or 14-year-old, actually, when I took my first job. I've had one job at least continually the entire, years that I've been working, many times multiple jobs. And so every employer is different. It's kind of like juggling plates. You have to keep the plates in the air, follow the directives, all those things. Even working for a school, you have certain standards. You have to grade within a certain time. You have to do this, you have to do that, and you need to keep up your part of the bargain, basically. So I hope that you will take to heart and start now while you're a student practicing many of these things, etiquette, ethics, all those things. You can do that now because you need experience. It takes about 6 months to form new habits. So if you have bad habits that are not going to put you in good stead with the workplace, now is a great time to work on them and seek to improve and to be a better employee when you get hired. Okay, thank you so much.